The engine in the Scratcher couldn't be rebuilt, so Bob Sampson decided to buy a new one. A Volvo diesel with 380 horsepower, up from 300. Bob and Wade installed it, but at first the bigger engine didn't fit into the old space. And when they did get it in, they had trouble lining it up. Through September, they worked on the Scratcher on the blow days and fished the rush on the good days. On the last day of the general category, Bob and Wade caught a fish. The next morning, Bob was flying to Wyoming to hunt for antelope with his son, Tucker. The trip had been 9 months in the planning, but because of the problems with the Scratcher, Bob hadn't had time to prepare. Most of the fun of hunting was in preparation, and Bob didn't even get to clean his guns before he left. He got in late to Osterville Harbor that night with the fish and was at the airport for a 6 a.m. flight. He also left with a pinched nerve and numbness in his left arm from a fall on the boat. He needed the rest, and it was important to see Tucker, who now lived in Florida, and hunt with him again. But the fishermen and pilots who worked with Bob couldn't understand why he'd go off hunting at this time of the year, or why he'd leave the Scratcher before the engine was functioning. While Bob was in Wyoming, there was a big day in the harpoon fishery off Chatham. Brooksy and Trip Wheeler teamed up with Ron Lean and Eric Hess to work as a group of 4. Rob Lane got 9 fish that day, and his mate Matt Camo, working without gloves, hauled lines until his hands were bleeding. A disgruntled fisherman didn't believe Ron had caught all 9 fish and accused him of taking quote-unquote past fish from other general category boats, which could take only 1. The fisherman made a complaint to the director of East Coast Tuna. There was a reporter from a Cape Cod newspaper in Trip Wheeler's plane that day, and he witnessed the catch, but the disgruntled fisherman didn't know that, and neither did Bob Sampson when he heard about the complaint in Wyoming. Bob didn't sleep well after that. Though he enjoyed his time with Tucker and shot an antelope, he returned to the Cape distracted and frustrated, and there was still that harpoon boat sitting in a parking lot. Bob hired a Volvo mechanic upon his return and fished another day on the rush in the extended quota. He and Wade got a fish that day, and Eric Hess got one, as did Sonny McIntyre, now moored in Saskatoon Harbor, and Billy Chapralis, Ron Line, and got 5. In 2 days, he had a season. After a summer of feeding, the fish were in prime condition, and because this small zone off Chatham was the only active area in New England, prices soared. Bob's fish, 270 pounds dressed, brought $6,300. Eric Hess got $42 a pound for a 285-pound fish. Ron Line got almost $40 per pound. By the last week of September, the temperature had dropped into the 35 to 50 degree range. One afternoon, while Bob and Wade worked on the Scratcher, there were snow squalls, but they hoped to get the boat in the water by Tuesday, September 29th. Working on the boat by day and at Calm Electric by night, Bob was getting the same 4 to 5 hours of sleep he had gotten for 20 years, but with the engine problem and the complaint about cheating and the tingling arm, he felt like he'd aged a year in the last 3 weeks. At least it was his left arm and not his throwing arm, but he was not going to miss a day of the Chatham Fishery if he could help it. He would wait until the harpoon quota was filled to get his arm checked out. Ron Line and Trip Wheeler went off Chatham on Tuesday, September 29th, the day the Scratcher went back into the water. Ron and Trip didn't get anything, though. The fish were out there, but they weren't staying up, and they kept running into the path of the sun. The water was rough, Ron said, like a washing machine. The tides were incredibly strong, a good thing since bluefin fed in strong tides. The planets must have been aligned in a funny way, Ron thought. The full moon was coming on, and Saturn was in the southern sky. Friday, October 2nd looks like a possible fish day, though there was the chance of a small craft advisory, with winds projected at 20 to 25 knots and seas at 3 to 6 feet. There would be a frost that Thursday night, but the sky would be clear and the water might be workable.